Hey guys, MrPokke here, and today we'll be taking a look at our new girl failure from the police, Cissia. She's an electric attack agent, and the main purpose is to be a secondary DPS for electric agents who wants to play a dual DPS team comp. In summary, she's pretty much gonna be electric Orphe, but with a gameplay that feels like a Yanagi. It may sound weird when we put it like this, but don't worry for once because we actually have a really straightforward character. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the kit. For the basic attack, pressing the basic will allow Cissia to perform a 4 attack combo, with the last hit generating 2 stacks of venom. Hitting a stunned enemy with this attack will generate an additional stack of venom, and Cissia can hold up to 6 venom stacks at the same time, and for every single 6 venom she has, she'll generate 1 stack of Serpentine Shadow. She can hold up to 3 Serpentine Shadow at a single time, and starts the battle with a single stack. While Cissia has Serpentine Shadow, holding the basic attack will channel an attack where she will leap into the air before slamming to the enemies. Using this attack will then trigger yourself a quick assist, and hitting the enemy will consume all venom to trigger Corrode Bone for every single stack consumed, dealing a significant amount of damage and daze. Corrode Bone is going to be considered a basic attack damage, and on top of that, each Corrode Bone will give her a 6% crit rate buff up to 18% crit rate. This is going to be a core mechanic for Cissia as both a main DPS as well as a sub DPS. For the special, the regular doesn't really do anything, but her EX special will unleash a series of multiple strikes for 65 energy cost, instantly refunding 5 energy when used and triggering a quick assist. If you keep holding your EX, you will consume up to another 60 energy, unleashing 1 extra strike per 20 energy consumed in that way. Using this EX to generate 3 venom stacks, with plus 1 stack per 20 energy charge holding while consuming. Now, another thing that is really good about the EX is that it can be followed by the basic attack 4, which will chain to her combos a lot faster. For the chain and ultimate, they both generate 3 venom stacks while triggering a quick assist, with the ultimate activating Ether Veil Cold Blood for 30 seconds, giving 5% crit damage to the entire team. The dodge doesn't really do anything, but the assist is gonna be allowing us to trigger into either the EX, special, or holding your basic attack. Now for the core passive, she'll end into battle with 3 venom stacks, and when possessing venom, she'll consume 1 stack every 5 seconds to trigger Corrode Bone, and she does not have to be the active character to trigger this. At the same time, her core increases the multiplier of Corrode Bone by additional damage up to 335% of the attack. As long as she has venom stacks and 30 seconds after she runs out, Cissia actually gives you 6% electric defense ignore up to an additional 1% for every 0.12 initial energy regeneration above 1.4, up to 25% electric defense ignore provided to the team. To max out this buff, she will need to have 3.68 initial energy regeneration, but we'll cover this both in the engine as well as these sections. Additionally, when there are 1 or 2 electric characters including yourself, the daze dealt by Corrode Bone increases by 40 or 60% respectively, and any excess venom stacks triggered above 6 will also give you Corrode Bone. For the additional ability, when paired with a stun on your electric agent, she will provide 40% crit damage to the team, with Cissia getting 50% for herself. So in summary, Cissia is going to be meant for a dual electric DPS team, giving up to 25% electric defense ignore, scaling up to her own energy regeneration, on top of giving 40% team-wide crit damage. She also has a lot of quick assists, and on top of her personal damage, she deals very good daze even when she's going to be off-field with Corrode Bone. For the skill priority, you'll want to focus on core over basic over special over chain, then last priority being assist as well as dodge. Now moving on to the W engine portion, her signature engine Serpentine Seeker is gonna be a best option and comes with a 60% energy regeneration subset, with the passive giving her 25% crit rate in combat as well as 28% defense ignore. Now however, because Cissia is going to be an electric attack agent who loves energy regeneration, uses EX as well as basic attack, she can actually make use of Drill Rig, which is going to be an A rank alternative. As of version 2.7, Cissia can only max her core passive defense ignore by wearing her signature engine, but however, with Drill Rig, she can still reach up to 24.2% defense ignore debuff. So while the signature makes a massive difference for the personal damage being 30% upgrade over the drill, if you do play Cissia as a sub DPS, the damage difference is going to be way less noticeable, usually only leaning towards a 10% increase for the team, but it will mostly depend on Cissia's personal damage contribution for the entire team. On a side note, it is not going to be recommended to run an off-class S-rank W engine with ER subset simply to cap the buff. The Drill Rig exists, and as mentioned earlier, Cissia will almost max out the passive entirely, on top of it increasing her personal damage through its passive. Now moving on to the drive disc, there are 2 ways to go about it. The best set for personal damage is going to be a 4-piece Dawn's Bloom, because she is an attack agent where majority of the damage is going to be counted as a basic attack while easily maintaining the passive uptime by playing her normally. However, as we mentioned, Cissia is going to be a mainly player as a sub DPS on top of having access to a lot of quick assists. As a result, her best disc set as a sub DPS is going to be 4-piece Astral Voice if no one else is going to be using this. Despite lowering your personal damage, having access to 24% damage buff is going to vastly outweigh the personal damage loss. For the 2-piece, it's pretty much always going to be 2-piece energy regeneration for any sum of 2-piece itself. You are always going to be needing this to reach your defense ignore buff, even if you own a signature light cone, so it's always going to be better than using another 2-piece like crit rate. That being said, 2-piece crit is still going to be very similar in performance if you don't really care about the defense ignore. For the main stats, you will either want crit rate or crit damage on disc 4, electric damage on disc 5, as well as always energy regeneration on disc 6. For disc 5 specifically, pen ratio should be avoided due to Cissia having a lot of defense ignore, meaning it will reduce the value for pen ratio. The same rule will also apply to her teammates, so if you play Cissia with another DPS, avoid using pen ratio on them. For the subsets, it's going to be your standard crit DPS with crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage, as well as flat penetration, as well as flat attack. With a signature weapon, make sure you do not go above 57% crit rate. With the drill, aim for 82% crit rate instead. Now, talking about the Mindscapes, for first of all, Mindscape 1, this is going to be a really decent Mindscape because it allows you to enter combat directly with 6 Venom stacks instead of 3, as well as increasing your defense ignore for 140% of the original value, meaning 35% capped out and 34% without the signature weapon running the drill. So across the board, this is going to give you an additional 10% defense ignore. On top of all that, she also gives you a 5% electric rest to the team with a corrode bone ignore another 10%. So overall, this is going to be a very strong Mindscape 1 to boost the overall team-wide damage increase, especially for electric team. For Mindscape 2, it will allow you to generate 3 additional Venom stacks after using Chain of Ultimate against a stunned enemy, holding a base and getting a 35% damage buff. The additional Venom gained directly will translate into more corrode bone, which will mean a lot more damage in days, making this a very valuable Mindscape with Cissia. So overall, for both Mindscape 1 and Mindscape 2, in terms of the days damage multiplier and breaking the enemy as fast as possible, you are definitely going to be one considering the Mindscape 2. For Mindscape 4, it's going to make her EX Chain Ultimate generate 1 stack of Decidedness with a maximum of 3, and this will be consumed by holding a base attack to trigger 1 additional stack of corrode bone that unfortunately doesn't deal days for each stack consumed. And lastly, for Mindscape 6, this is going to be giving you an additional free special corrode bone for every 3 seconds that does not deal days. So between M1 and W1, if you want to vertically invest in Cissia, it is highly recommended to get a signature weapon before the Mindscape. Although Mindscape is going to be great, the M2 is going to be really the big one. However, her signature is going to be a lot cheaper to get on average. And if you want to invest beyond into 2 cores, M2 is going to be an exceptional stopping point, increasing the personal damage by 50% compared to M0. Now that we've seen how we're going to be building Cissia, let's just talk about our team comps, or should I say, just pretty much going to be a single team, because the reality is that strictly speaking, Cissia is only going to be paired with a single other character, and that is none other than Seed. Both Cissia as well as Seed, their kits naturally complement one another, with Seed requiring a secondary attack agent that spends energy while buffing them, and Cissia amplifying electric teammates with defense ignore as well as crit damage buffs. Up until now, she has been making use of Orphe by default, but now that she has Cissia, who is essentially a better Orphe for her specifically. The last on the team can be either a support stunner, for example Trigger, Darling, Sana, Zhao, Asha, or even Nicole. That being said, Cissia still functions very well with attack agents in general as a sub DPS, but for characters like Sanbi as well as Harumasa, she will not be an upgrade over their current best assault teammate. Although it is worth mentioning for Sanbi specifically, she can be interesting for some weakness matching endgame modes due to sharing the same attributes. This is going to be in contrast to Orphe being fire, which will not make use of elemental advantage. But outside of that, Orphe still stays best in stock for Sanbi, so it is not recommended to pull for Cissia if what you're looking for is an upgrade for Sanbi specifically. And for those of you who are going to be playing the Snake Lady as the main DPS, it is definitely possible to do so by pairing her with a stunner as well as a support, but the results will usually be worse than playing her with Seed, so for the absolute best not team comp, it is going to be running Cissia as a sub DPS with Seed. With everything out of the way, let's just take a look at the performances in the current endgame content. As we mentioned previously, Cissia is going to be a Seed DLC, so we'll be mostly looking at the performances with Seed herself. Without any doubt, the Cissia and Seed teams are going to be performing very well effortlessly, achieving relatively high scores in both daily assault as well as shield defense. That being said, you can also see in the table below that the Hypercarry team still managed to perform relatively well and managed to get largely full clears despite having lower scores than Seed teams at a similar investment overall. So with that, we've pretty much come to the end of today's content. It's not going to be too much, but honestly, her kit and build are going to be very straightforward, and there's not a lot to say about Cissia other than that. If you're going to be a Seed main, just pretty much pull her, or if you're going to be really into her snakes as well as the bounciness. Cissia is going to be far from a bad character, and she's actually really good, but she is going to be having a bit of a drawback due to only having one relevant teammate. Another thing that doesn't help a case is how we know characters are going to be releasing in version 2.8 and none of them are going to be electric DPS, so unless there's going to be a new electric agent in Season 3, Cissia will remain glued to Seed for a very long time. That being said, she's still going to be a valuable asset for Seed teams and can still make her work well enough to clear all endgame content in different teams. As always, if you like her, don't feel bad for pulling for her because meta is not going to be fixed and she can still fully clear all content anyways. If you want to kind of take this as a comparison for Honkai Star, imagine if Cissia is going to be Asheville, but Facial was going to be a little bit better, and Cissia is going to be worse as a hyper carry than what Asheville is. Or imagine if Cypher only worked with Echo on release and nobody actually plays Cypher as a main DPS and there are no upcoming units to work with Cypher. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, join Discord, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, use code POKKE with 10% off gamer subs. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.